Yo, it's your boy AncientAlbatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew, -1. Unfortunately, no Dean tonight. We have the ever lovely Anthony, or Spiggs 18. And just as a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch or subscribe to us over on YouTube. It is a great help to our channel and community, and we appreciate all the support we've received thus far. But without further ado, Anthony, what are we doing here tonight?
Tonight we have a very good friend of ours, Jeremy Tolbert. He's a web designer, a writer. He lives in Kansas with his wife and son. He also writes science fiction and fantasy. He does web design work for many of our favorite tabletop RPG companies like Monte Cook Games, Cobalt Press, Evil Hat, and many others. Jeremy, welcome to the CU. Say hi to everybody out there.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, guys.
More importantly, Jeremy was my roommate at GameHoleCon. That was his greatest accomplishment. Sure. Jeremy, for our audience that doesn't know, tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about your gaming experience.
Sure. So, my primary professional involvement in the RPG publishing space is that I'm a freelance web developer, web designer, and I work with Monte Cook Games. Obviously, they're my largest client, along with Cobalt Press. I do a little bit of work with Evil Hat, and I'm also the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association webmaster, at least until the end of this year, and various other clients, a lot of authors and things like that. I have been playing role-playing games for 40 years as of this year. I'm not that old. I just started when I was 6 years old. There were some neighborhood kids that a guy 2 doors down from me was running D&D and needed kids, and I came, and so I've been playing for 40 years as of this year. So I played a little bit of everything over the years. Started with Dungeons and Dragons like most people, and now I play Cypher System, Powered by the Apocalypse, just about everything you can think of. I run 3 online campaigns, roughly 2 a week. And let's see, we're playing Wild Sea, we're playing Numenera, and we're playing a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons game. So that's a little bit about me in gaming, at least to start.
I know you might have a biased answer for this one. It's just a follow-up, but what's your favorite system to play/run?
Oh gosh, like obviously the pat answer would be the Cypher System, but it's actually, I actually have the least amount of experience with the Cypher System of any of MCG's games. I've been going with them for a couple of years to conventions, and I have sort of become the de facto pseudo expert on running Stealing Stories. Stealing Stories for the Devil is the game that came out the year I first went to Gen Con with them, and because I didn't need a lot of Cypher System knowledge to run it, it's fully improv based, and you could read it in an afternoon and pick it up and run it. I just dedicated myself to running that. I think I run it 8 or 9 times at my first Gen Con, and then last year I think I run it 4 or 5 times. So of MCG's products, that's my favorite. I'm also really partial lately to the Forged in the Dark system, which is what's the basis for Band of Blades and Blades in the Dark and other games like that. I've really enjoyed that system quite a bit. I'm more of a narrative-focused gamer, reflecting sort of my background as a writer, I guess. So systems that like really lean into that, I'm really a big fan of. But I also like war games and things like that. So I'm more than happy to sit down and play a crunchy, 5e or 4e D&D game too. So I like a little bit of everything.
Nice, polygamer is how we like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving along a little here. You definitely play an important role for many of our favorite gaming companies. Can you explain to our audience what exactly a webmaster does, especially in the role-playing space?
Sure. So I am a specialist in a piece of software that runs websites called WordPress. WordPress is an open source platform for building websites that powers almost 50% of all websites on the internet. I've been working with WordPress for about 15 years, I'd say. And so what I do is I help maintain and keep alive and make updates to and support technical issues with WordPress and a plugin for WordPress called WooCommerce, which is what runs the stores on all my client sites. So Evil Hat, Cobalt Press, and Monte Cook Games all use the software WooCommerce inside of WordPress to power their stores, to take orders, and to sell products online. And so starting out with MCG, I actually had very little experience with WooCommerce. I had a lot of WordPress experience, but they brought me on board and sort of let me learn on the fly. And they had the help of my predecessor, John Arcadian, who was the previous web designer for both Cobalt Press and Monte Cook Games. So I come on board, and basically, if there's a problem, I try to figure it out and fix it. When an order doesn't fulfill correctly or a coupon's not working, I'm often the guy who comes in and looks at it. Recently at MCG, our piece of software that connects to our shipping software at the warehouse to take orders and put them in boxes and ship them, that piece of software failed. It stopped pulling any Kickstarter orders, so orders that had already been paid for. And so it was top priority for me to dive into the code and figure out what was happening. And they had made a decision at ShipStation to not download and import orders that had $0 cost, which was a huge number of our Kickstarter orders. Obviously, people pay for those on Kickstarter. So I had to go in and rewrite their code on the fly and test it and comment out some bits to get it so that it would pull down those orders and we could get the warehouse back up and running. So that's an example of the kind of stuff that I do.
Nice. And we have Tammy in chat and Bear saying that Bear says you're a lifesaver and Tammy says is a god. You're a god. Yeah, it definitely sounds like you do a lot of work in making sure things run well on the back end of things. And, you know, the fans definitely appreciate that. I will say that. We do get a lot of people saying that, that their orders come quickly and whatnot. And, yeah, their website experience is generally pretty good. And, yeah. Thank you.
Making that run smoothly and quickly and is a constant aspect of my life. Something I spend a lot of time on. I'm never happy with how it's doing. I always want it to do better. So, if the store slows down because we have 4,000 or 5,000 people all hitting it at the same time trying to fulfill their Kickstarter rewards, that's something that I'm constantly working on trying to improve, and it's getting better. I think there was a time where we really struggled under those kind of loads, but it's a lot better now than it used to be. And it will continue to get better as I put time and effort into it.
Hey guys, I know I'm going to have a little feedback because my building decided to kick on the heat at full blast right when we started streaming, so I'll be muting myself in between questions. But first off, I want to say we got to meet at Game Ocon, like I stated earlier. And I personally saw you run a ton of games, and I saw the relationship you had with MCG. How did you manage to get that gig with MCG? And can you tell us what some of the projects you worked on for them?
Sure. So how did I get the gig? I'm good friends with Bear Whiter, the art director. And so, and I, because I move in sort of similar social circles as a writer as Shauna Germain and Monte Cook, I knew both of them from other aspects of things that I've done. I'd met Monte at a writer's workshop prior, about 5 or 6 years before. I think they published Numenera, maybe. Sometime in the mid-aughts. I don't remember the exact year. And so I had some light connections to various people, but when my predecessor, John Arcadian, who did the initial work, the heavy lifting of getting everything up and running when the company started, when he decided he was going to take a full-time position and leave freelancing, Bear suggested me. And so I had some meetings and I met Tammy and Charles and hit it off with them pretty quickly, I think. And came on board and just started learning real quick, how the MCG way, as I like to put it, of how we do things and all that. Sorry, there was a second part of your question, which was, some projects that I've worked on for them. I built the Darkest House app. So if you've used the Darkest House app, that's my work. I built the Invisible Sun directed campaign tool. So if you play the directed campaign and got your chapters delivered to you and stuff. That was my tool. I also, the store and the main website, and then pretty much any Monte Cook Games website. So like the weird website, which shows examples of like you can roll on the tables using the website. Those are all projects that I built for them. Basically, at this point, if it's a recent website, I built it. So
the Darkest House app is freaking awesome, Jeremy.
thanks.
Congrats on that. That is a masterpiece.
Appreciate that. I'm really happy with how that turned out. I hope we do something like that again.
The chat is agreeing as well that it's freaking awesome.
Cool. That's great.
And we did have one of our viewers, DMTel, say they love your "No Thank You Evil" shirt.
Thank you.
I also need to get one of those. It's really cool. I love "No Thank You Evil."
So one advantage of living really close to the warehouse is that you can get stuff like this. So I live just I'm just 30-40 minutes away from the warehouse, so I can head over there and meet people for lunch and pick up T-shirts and stuff like that. So this is this is the MCG shirt I had that was clean. I have, I don't know, 7 or 8 shirts that I take to cons and wear. I like this one.
We still need to organize that Cypher Unlimited trip to the warehouse to like have a video on it, or whatever, live stream so people can see inside, see the inner workings.
You guys over to Kansas City would take you out for some good barbecue, and yeah,
we pitched that idea like a year and a half ago about traveling down. We wanted to film some videos in the warehouse. We definitely got to make that happen this year.
Yeah, well, would be
the
nice.
warehouse is probably actually walkable right now. When all of the we had a whole bunch of Kickstarter fulfillment stuff all arrive at the same time, and just before I think GameHoCon, and there was practically no space to walk between the pallets of product. I had never seen the warehouse that full of stuff. It was great. It was all getting packed up.
I always see in the warehouse. I think it's freaking packed. There's like skits on top of skits. So I couldn't imagine them being empty.
Yeah. They work really hard over there. Every time I'm in there, I break out in a cold sweat about how much work it is to run that that warehouse. And that's Tammy's baby.
I have no doubt that it's a bunch of work.
For sure.
Yeah, I can just to go back a little. I can imagine just how packed it is when a big Kickstarter fulfillment comes in. Just because you guys see how many numbers they do, like every Kickstarter. It's a mind-boggling number to think about how many books or whatever accessories are just in this building.
There's always new stuff coming in, being delivered that has to be shipped out. So it's probably like never ending.
Just in the time that I've worked with them, they've moved warehouses once from a space that was kind of like a self-storage, like large self-storage unit. They had 2 of those, and they just moved into something that it's twice as big as my house. It's massive, it's huge. And then they filled it up almost immediately. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, this is plenty of space to grow, and real quick. So yeah, it's great.
That's kind of hilarious.
We definitely see your question, and we will ask Jeremy as many questions as we possibly can. If anyone else has questions, please preface it with the word question, so we'll know that we'll be able to take it out, put it in another document. We'll ask Jeremy at the end of our questions. But Brilliant Loser, we're definitely going to ask your question.
Yep. And I did get Jesus's. But yeah, next question here. You also like to write sci-fi and fantasy stories, we mentioned in the beginning. Where can our audience find some of your work? And little mini follow-up, if our audience were to check out just one of your stories, which would you recommend?
Sure. So probably the best place to find my work, my website, jeremiahtolbert.com, has links to everything that's online. And I have always put a strong emphasis on publishing my work in online magazines so that anybody could read it. The big magazine that I think has published me the most is called Lightspeed Magazine. It's an online magazine that's free to read. And the story I guess I would recommend people read, the one that I think fans of role-playing games would enjoy the most, it's called Cavern of the Screaming Eye. It's a dungeon-based story. So I have a series of stories that are about modern teenagers who go into these metaphysical anomalies that are basically dungeons, and they dungeon crawl, and it collapses these anomalies, and they get these little artifacts that have powers and things. So it's very role-playing game inspired. And I think Cavern of the Screaming Eye is the first one, and the second one's called Dragon of Dread Peak. So they have sort of classic D&D module sort of titles. Those are probably my most popular work. I've gotten more fan mail for those two stories than I think everything else that I've written combined. I think I've published about 3 or 4 dozen stories over the years. So that one is by far everybody's favorite. One of these days I'll get around to writing more. I finished the second one right around the time my son was born, and that has been my life since then. It's a lot more parenting and a lot less writing in the last few years.
That little synopsis you gave or breakdown definitely sounds up TTRPG players' alley. Going into the dungeons, breaking them, and turning destroying the anomaly or whatever. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yep. And as you do it, you develop little powers, so you get a class sort of. It's very much inspired by my enjoyment of playing fantasy role playing games as a kid. Yeah, for sure.
I was gonna say the same thing, Al. It gives me that classic D&D module vibe that we all had as kids. Mm-hmm. And I love the titles.
I think the story opens with the main character putting his books in his locker, and somebody spotting his 10-foot pole, his collapsible 10-foot pole in his locker, and saying, "Hey, you've got the new 10-foot pole," and they strike up a conversation, and they decide to go on a dungeon crawl together.
That's even more awesome. I'm super excited. I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Just combines the mundanity of attending high school with also, on your spare time, fighting monsters and stealing treasure. So,
I was really excited to have you on the show. Same way when we had Terry on. I love talking about jobs in the industry that are not necessarily related to the designers or the artists. When we had Terry on and she was talking about editing for RPG companies, because I think it's very important for people to know that, hey, if you're not a game designer, you can still work in this field. And web development, I think is a field that there are a lot of people talented. So do you have any advice for someone that wants to get into the gaming space, how to get started in the industry?
It seems like everybody I talk to gets into the gaming industry a completely different way. But what I would say to anybody interested is the only thing stopping you from getting started is you. The resources and availability and the connections that you can make online these days means really you just need a piece of paper and a pencil to get started doing game design or whatever. And there's always people out there looking to start new projects. If you're not the kind of person who likes taking initiative, hit up places like Reddit or Discords like the Cypher Unlimited or whatever, and find people, that you can team up with and you can bring your skills to bear. I think that the desire to do it is the number one thing you need. You certainly can't be motivated by things like monetary compensation because it's not the most profitable industry in the world or anything like that. But if you just want to make something and make something cool, I think you can do it. And honestly, I think we're living in a golden age of tabletop role-playing games. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't see a Kickstarter for something that I think is absolutely fantastic and fascinating. I started playing role-playing games in the early 80s when it was Dungeons and Dragons, and that was about it. And now there are more games being published than I can ever hope to play in my lifetime. And it's amazing. And so, I think if you want to do it, just do it. Start working on your skills and work on your connections and team up with other people. Join other projects that people are doing. Write for existing games. Pretty much everybody has some sort of open license these days, including the Cypher. The Cypher system has, the reference document. I would love to see more people get their start in the industry writing things like Cypher system adventures and things like that. The material is there for you to use. Kickstart your career doing that, and then as you sort of work on those sorts of things or be part of projects like that. Like if you're an artist, you can do illustrations. If you're a web developer, you can provide services to, host websites and maintain websites for people. So there's roles for everybody in the industry for sure. Yeah, I just do it, I guess is my advice. But I think that's easier said than done. I know in some cases, like finding the time is difficult, but if you're really motivated to do it, there's tons of opportunities out there for sure.
I think that's actually phenomenal advice. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will.
And one thing you said, and I feel like it's not said super often when we ask that question, like advice in this arena, and that was like to hit up places like Reddit, Discord, like smaller, get it involved in smaller things just to either build your confidence or resume, so to speak. That's a great one. Like just find a community that you want to work within and hit up those small little, like kind of like the CU Discord or some Reddit. Yeah, I love that advice.
The only rule should be that you need to share it with other people. Like you could work in your own closet or whatever, or in your enclosed space and never share it with anybody. But that doesn't count. Like you have to share it with the outside world because you need to get feedback. Making a role playing game just for yourself, I mean, you could do that, I guess. But they are tools for facilitating social engagement. And so I think like the only real way to like develop these tools and things is to get out there and let other people interact with them. So, and that's how you'll get better too. It's like by sharing it with other people and them giving them their feedback. I love following places like Reddit and Discords where aspiring game designers they're just hacking away at ideas. They're just posting stuff all the time. Check out this item design I came up with for 5th edition D&D, or check out this cipher I designed. It's great. That's how everybody learns, I think. But you need to put it out there because putting it out there is how it comes alive. It's no longer yours once it's in the hands of everybody. Then it becomes everybody's kind of. But I think that's like the crucial step, and it's hard sometimes. Like if you're really nervous about your baby, and you I get that, but getting it out there. I come from the realm of writing, right? So like you can write a diary or whatever, but that's not the same as like writing for publication. And I think role-playing games like really live or die in other people's heads. If they're just in your head, they're just imaginary. But once they get in the hands of other people, they can really come alive, So that would be the only stipulation I'd say is do it and then let other people see it and play with it and change it.
That's great advice.
Thanks.
That's great advice for sure.
I love that as a follow up. Thank you so much. But yeah, what's the next one here? Sorry, I scrolled a little bit because I was adding questions. There we go. What are some of the most common mistakes people make in web design, and what advice can you give them on how to avoid those mistakes?
Sure. So I've been building websites since 1997. So I've seen websites from the early days of GeoCities, if you guys remember GeoCities and things like that. I've been around for a long time. But the number one problem I have with websites is people who put form over function. The thing is, you can really get caught up in making something look really pretty and really fancy. But the truth of the matter is a website is an instrument. It's a tool. A website is a tool for delivering information. And if you put form over function, you make it look really great, but hard to use, it's broken. An ugly website that delivers information is not broken. It's just ugly. An ugly tool still works. So my emphasis has always been on functionality over form, and maybe that's because I'm not that great of an artist. But at the same time, I think at least I tell myself that I think in the eternal struggle between form and function matters more when it comes to websites. Now there are such things as art websites, and that might change the rules. But the bulk of what I do is try to deliver information to people and make information more easily accessible. And so that's the number one thing is like you put some great piece of art, but I can't find the links. I don't understand the links. You've made them, I can't understand where to get to and things like that. But, these days there's so many tools that let you build websites, things like Squarespace and all these tools that a lot of the most common mistakes are becoming, not really an issue anymore because tools are opinionated and sort of help people skip over those things. Like one thing that I used to have to deal with is people would want landing pages that were just like a graphic, and then you had to click on it, and then you would get to the website. And that was a thing that everybody wanted for a while, and I had to constantly argue. But this was like 15 years ago, So these days nobody does that. Everybody understands that the homepage is where you put all your information, not just a picture that says "enter here," which was like the cover of a book. Websites are not like that. A cover of a book exists to sell it from the shelf, not it's not something you need to be able to read the book, right? So there's a million little things, but that's the biggest one. And there's little things also that are really important that everybody can do better at, even if they just have their personal website. Like my big bugaboo these days is saying there's something called alt tags that go on images, and it's an accessibility thing. If you load an image in, and when you put an image on a web page, you have the ability to put a descriptor for that image in the code that sort of describes what it is. You just write a description saying, this is a picture of an apple or whatever. And if someone is using a screen reader to access this, it will read that text because they can't see the image. And so this is something that myself included, we can all do better at, like providing accessibility tags in our code and things like that. So that's another one. That's one that I just see, people on their blogs failing to do. Social media has been bad about it too. That's one reason I really like Blue Sky, is they prompt you to add alt tags to every image you upload, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that it's the web. Pretty much, you did kind of say it, but the web design, just the general practice, has changed dramatically since you first started. Like the stuff you're doing in your very first web pages compared to what you do now is like night and day, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started building web pages, they were just for computer screens, right? So because that was all, and they were very small monitors. It was like the resolution we were designing for in the very beginning was like 640 by 480 or 800 by 600 pixels. Like that was the maximum size of a website, and they were fixed. You built them how they would look on the screen, and that was it. And then Apple came up with this thing called an iPhone, and that could access the web. And all of a sudden, almost overnight, all designers had to relearn how to build web pages because they could be looked on a variety of screen sizes. And so mobile accessibility and responsive design happened, and we had to completely relearn how to build websites. We had to make them so that they would reflow themselves and reorient themselves and add special navigation tools for phone users. And now, as of today, like 50% of all traffic to my client websites is on mobile devices. Whereas, when I started out, it was 100% computers and nothing else. So that was a big change, probably the biggest one.
That must be cool and satisfying to see someone like log on to a site, like say someone going to the MCG site or the Cobalt Press site, and you're like, shit, I made that. You wanted that must be a really cool feeling.
It is, and I'll say I get a lot of I do a lot of author websites. So some of my I have some semi-famous or really famous clients, and it's great to like see somebody in the family or a friend reading a book and say, yeah, I did their website. Like I did the James S.A. Corey website. Those are the guys who wrote the Expanse books, and so I get to talk that up quite a bit and say, yeah, I built the website for those guys. And
awesome.
Michael Connolly, a big mystery writer, who's had a number of movies and TV shows. He's the guy who does Bosch. I built his website. I've been working with their team for about 10 years, I think. We're on a couple of different iterations now of what we've been doing with them. I love working with those folks. They're great. So it is a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I play a game when I go to the bookstore. I say client, not client yet. It's fun. Yeah.
It must take you forever when you go to Barnes and Noble at the bookstore. Like you can buy that. I made that site. Let's go to the next hour. I'll show you some more authors I worked with.
My wife is not impressed anymore.
We spoke offline, especially when we were at GameOCon, about our love for our shared love for the Cypher system. We all see you, by the way. What do you think makes Cypher system so special and one of your favorite systems? And what is your favorite setting that MCG makes to run a play?
Sure. Oh, the second part's tough, but I'll start with the first part. So I think Monty's design sensibilities to take a lot of the mechanical work out of the dungeon master or game master's hands and putting them in the player's hands is absolutely revelatory for me. When Numenera was first announced, it was like, you'll not have to roll dice as the game master. I was like, what? That shocked me. And in practice, I absolutely love it, because when I'm running a game, I'm focused on two things. I'm focused on tension and pacing. And nothing kills tension and pacing more than having to like flip through a book and find stats for something, or rolling a bunch of dice and doing math. Like, those things really slow down games. And so one of the things that I just absolutely love about the Cypher system and Monty's games in general is that they put pacing and focus in a context that allows me to focus on them and not feel like I'm de-emphasizing parts of the design. Like, the very simpatico as far as like how I feel about those things and how I think Monty sort of feels about them as well. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm running games to help people tell stories and make memories, not like punch. Like, if I want to just shoot things or kill things, I play video games. But a role-playing game for me is about story. And so that's what I love about the Cypher system. And then, GM intrusions, gives me a great mechanic to be able to, again, add tension or add conflict into the story when I need to ratchet those things up. And then, I especially love in Invisible Sun, the character arc notion of how you get experience points. In Invisible Sun, the way you pick arcs for your character and sort of progress through them. I haven't run Invisible Sun, but I got to play in a campaign run by Bear Whiter for about a year and a half. And there's just some great little things that really help center the idea that this is a storytelling experience in game. And so I really dig that.
That's awesome.
Oh, Mike in chat says the quote, "It's about the story. I need that on a shirt." That's a good shirt.
Yeah, it's it's funny because sometimes players will come to the table and they have sort of a conflict adverse idea about the game. Like, they're there to avoid having anything bad happen to their characters. I was playing this is one of my favorite stories to tell people about role-playing games. A couple of years back, I was playing a D&D game, and we were playing, and there was this mysterious wall, and we were all very experienced players, and we were haggling back and forth about what we were going to do about this mysterious wall that looked like it was made out of shifting plates or something. And one of the players said, "I'm going to touch the wall. I don't play D&D to not touch the wall. I've come here to touch the wall." And that has become the battle cry for me and many of my players. I've told the story so many times. It's like, you come to the table to touch the wall. It may do something horrible to you. And in fact, it did. It came alive and tried to eat us. But that's okay, because that's the story. The story of I didn't touch the wall and we safely went about our lives and nothing happened, that's boring. The story of I touched the wall and the wall tried to eat me because it was made out of steampunk nanites or something, that's great. Like, I tell everybody in relation to it's about the story. It's like, you have to change the way you think about bad things happening, because conflict is the heart of story. Bad things happening is fun. And if bad things didn't happen, you'd be bored. And so the shorthand for that has become, and I want it on a t-shirt, is touch the wall. So I love that.
Hey, Dean's in chat. Hey, brother, hope everything is going well.
Hey, Dean.
And like our usual chat, there's a bunch of war memes going on now.
I fought the wall and the wall won. That was our good friend Olga who said that.
You had mentioned something that really struck a chord with me about the GM not rolling dice. And I'm not going to lie, when I first read Numenera the very first time, I wasn't sure I was going to like that until I actually played and didn't have to roll dice and realized how liberating it was, and how much like brain space, for lack of a better term, it allowed you to think of so many other things when you weren't concentrating on die rolls and math and all that stuff. But I'm not gonna lie, when I first read it, I was like, I like my dice. I want to roll dice. And I think a lot of people feel the same way till they actually sit down and GM a Cypher, based game.
At the time I first encountered it was the Kickstarter for Numenera, I think. I was like, that is crazy. It totally surprised me and shocked me. And I thought about it. I was like, I look forward to trying it, but I was skeptical. And I would say now it's almost the norm for any game I play. I don't really roll dice in almost anything. I've played many Powered by the Apocalypse games. I don't roll the dice. I played some Brindlewood Bay. I don't roll dice. Like that was the first one. I don't know if Monty kicked that off or if it existed in some form, before that. But the only game I roll dice in now, I think, is probably Dungeons and Dragons. Everything else I play, it's all in the hands of the players, and it also leans into that idea of prep. Like because I run so many games, and it's so fundamental to me that like I want to run as many games for my friends as I can because it's my favorite way to hang out with my friends. And I run all my games online. But the problem is I have a busy life. I have a wife and a son and a business that I run and many clients. So these days, like games that have lower prep are naturally easier for me to get to the table because I would rather just be playing the game than spending lots of time outside of the game preparing materials for the game. And this is the fatal flaw of a game like 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons for me is that like it's very difficult for that game to run it by the seat of your pants or run it in the moment spontaneously. It's what drew me so heavily to Stealing Stories because Stealing Stories, you cannot prep Stealing Stories because the players literally build their own mousetrap at the table. And that's one of the things I love about it is I sit down, every time I sit down and run that game, I have one idea about like what the object is they're going to be trying to steal and what weird effect it has. That's it. And then the players just go to town with the rest of it and they build all of it. And then I use the tools that they came up with to torture them. And it's great. So that for me is big. Yeah.
Stealing Stories is so much fun as a player to run. Every experience I had playing Stealing Stories has always been totally original, totally new. You're never going to get even close to the same game twice, no matter how many times you play. That's just such a well-designed game.
I have run the same scenario concept multiple times, and it's so different. You couldn't recognize it. Like so at Gen Con the first year, I ran 2 different heists that took place at Gen Con itself. And what the players did with it was completely different those 2 different times. Like the one involved, some sort of Iron Man gaming competition where they needed to like steal the prize, which was a gold D20. And another one involved the mafia being in with the people who run Gen Con, and they had to break into a penthouse and steal passwords. And it was nuts. It was very, very different. And the players just totally changed the shape of that game. One person said to me that like every group has to decide at the beginning of the game if they want to be James Bond or Johnny English, like the parody of James Bond, because those games can be played very straight and very serious, or they can be very wacky and very, the wheels can fly off the car at high speed. But it's my favorite game to run of MCG's games just because I got to run it so much that first year. And laughed harder than I've ever laughed before at some of the stuff that the players would come up with, and that I think makes it a great con game for sure.
Yeah, you love to hear that. I definitely need to play more Stealing Stories. I think the only time I've played was when we play tested it. Honestly, I don't think I've revisited since. I definitely need to. I have it sitting here. I just yeah.
It's a glut, right? There's just so many. I mean, the shelf behind me has lots of role-playing games on it, and I have 2 shelves that you can't see off camera that are filled with role-playing games, and then I have a hard drive full of PDFs. And I'd say I've played 20% of what I own at this point. It's just in the last few years, it's exploded. It's so hard to keep up. And I play 2 to 3 times a week. And I still can't keep up.
Like we always see people posting pictures of like, oh, this is my gaming collection or this is my shelf. And I told Al, hey, I started recording, like I'm gonna record like little videos of this is my Numenera collection, you know. And then I told Al, I said the videos are too long because I got too many. Not only do I have like I'll have Numenera, right? But then this is my Monte Cook autograph Numenera copy. This is my my collection is like ridiculous. So I'm like, you know, I need to like trim it down somewhat.
Right.
And then by the time you're ready for like getting the video done, more product comes in, like Glimmering Valley or whatever.
Oh again.
That's what I'm running for my Numenera campaign. Which I just started. I'm running the Glimmering Valley, and yeah. It's every time I read something, there's another book on the shelf. Like it's just never ending. I can't keep up. But I love it.
You see, I know you've seen it, but Rust and Redemption, man. Oh, that is such a good book.
Oh
yeah, I gotta head over to the warehouse and pick that up. I love
like the PDF, but there's something about the physical, getting the book in your hand. Oh my God! Yeah,
I gotta give credit to Bear. Like he's such a great designer of physical. I remember when he told me he was applying for the art position. I don't know if he's ever told the story, but like he actually made a book as his like submission element. Like he actually designed and had a physical hardcover book printed to be like his resume when he applied for that job. I remember him showing it to me and being like, if they don't give you the job, they're nuts. Who does that? And that's just like, that's been the way it's been ever since. Is he puts so much thought into those, and they make such clever things. Like I think the most extravagant, wild RPG thing ever made to this day still is probably An Invisible Sun. I'm lucky enough to have a black cube, and it by sheer weight, it's what, like 40 pounds or something. And there's so much cool. Like I take it out sometimes and just marvel at all of the ridiculous stuff they did. But I think Bear should get a lot of credit for that.
And all the sequences, it's like it's so beautiful. Sometimes you don't even want to crack it open. You know what I mean? Because it's just perfect. You don't even want to crack open the cube. Like I tell everybody, I was like, this is like, what's the box in Hellraiser?
Right.
It's like the perfect thing. The cube is just absolutely perfect. It's the Mercedes-Benz of RPGs.
It's a masterwork. It's a triumph. It's people working at the top of their game in an industry that has really just started to explode in the last decade, I'd say. I would love to see somebody try to like outmatch it, like love to see somebody try to one up the black cube. I think it might still be a while before anybody attempts, but who knows? Maybe the MCG people will be the ones that try to do it.
Dang, that would be crazy to see them do something bigger or better than the black cube. That would be absolutely bonkers for them to top themselves in that regard.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, DM tells you definitely should pick up Rust and Redemption. I just got my physical copy today, and like I was telling Al before we got online, it is freaking awesome. I can't wait I'm probably going to finish reading it after this interview. So it is freaking awesome. Definitely pick it up.
And before I move on to the next question here, Tammy did throw a little correction in the chat. The black cube is 29.3 pounds.
Oh, okay.
That is how heavy. Good to know. And then
Jeremy?
He's a 40.
40?
Not too far off.
Yeah. 29.3 pounds is still freaking
huge.
I have one, and it's the only thing I can put on the shelf. I can't put anything else on the shelf.
That's hilarious.
And it goes on the lowest shelf because, even just hardcover books, you can sort of see how these shelves bow.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the black cube is a structural hazard.
Ooh, all right. So next one here. That's hilarious, though. Oh, it must be so.
T-shirt, the black cube, great game, structural hazard.
Oh, that's good. Ooh, but yeah, so it must be fun working with so many authors and gaming companies. What is the most satisfying part of your job? And then on the flip side, what can be the most frustrating part for you?
So I just really like people who make stuff. Um, I don't know. And getting to save them time is the thing that gives me the most satisfaction. Like if I can do a thing and save somebody, I'll give you an example. In the back end, there's a list of products in a store. And for Cobalt, for whatever reason, loading that back end was taking 40 seconds. It's too long. And so I spent 2 hours using a very nerdy tool trying to figure out like what was causing that to go so slow. And I was able to determine that one of the tools we were using had a mistake in it, and I was able to rewrite a line of it and take that load time from 40 seconds to about 4.5 seconds. So I did some quick like back of the envelope math as I reported it to the team when I did, which was so we load that page probably 10 times a day at least. That's conservative estimate. Every day, 365 days, I roughly figured it out to about 30 to 35 hours of waiting time in a year. And so by spending 2 hours, I was able to save the team 30 to 35 hours of sitting around waiting. And it's not often that I get to like actually paint out like exactly how much time it is that I save somebody when I do things. But that's what I try to do. I try to leverage what I understand about technology to give creative people back their time because I want them to have more time to make things and spend less time doing things like updating web pages and making a website work when it's not working right. That's sort of my role. So that's what I've kind of settled on is kind of like my work purpose in life is to facilitate other creative people and help them with the things that get in the way. And then probably the most annoying thing is I hate troubleshooting spam filters. I hate it. Like when you send an email out into the void, there's no way to know whether it's going to get there. Like it's a black box, and you're lucky. Honestly, you should just consider yourself lucky if any email gets to its destination. Experiencing what I've experienced trying to improve email deliverability and stuff. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of malware and hack and stuff. People trying to take over websites to spread spam and things like that. That's not fun either. Like the malicious stuff that you have to deal with in my industry, it's very frustrating. I spent 5 years as a IT manager for a credit union in Laramie, Wyoming, in a past life. It was my first job out of college. So I was basically the IT support for the whole organization, internal and out. And one of the things that I had to deal with there was like, mass fraud, people faking an email from our institution to get people to go to a forum and put in their credit card information. And at one point we had somebody do this and we immediately spotted it, set out a notice, got it shut down. But I think it was like 12 minutes that it was open, over 200 cards were stolen, printed in Romania, taken to an ATM, and all the money taken out. In like that little time. Like it was that level of sophistication of an operation. So dealing with that kind of stuff, that's one thing I don't miss. I don't miss dealing with that. But occasionally my clients have to deal with similar sort of cyber attacks, and that's really no fun. Those are very stressful days when a site comes under some sort of automated attack. They're not targeted. It's just people write bots and they send them out into the internet to just do what they can, So that's no fun. I don't like that stuff at all. But getting to save people time, that's good. I like that.
That's horrible.
I will say that's super awesome of you. The very valiant is the word I was thinking. That's your most satisfying part of the job, that you get to make sure that the creatives have time to do more creative stuff, just being helpful. I love that.
Yeah, I kind of walk between two camps. I'm a creative person myself for the most part, but I'm also technically skilled in some ways. I mean, I'm not trained in what I do. I'm self-taught. My degree is actually in biology. But in college, I started my first web design company, and I've always been decent with computers, and it served me well. But I really enjoy being able to sort of stand between those two groups and help them talk to one another, help translate what one's saying to the other when necessary and things like that. And I, obviously I translate for myself a lot of the time too. It's fun. Like I like being able to be in that role. Yeah, for sure.
That is so awesome. Is there any more information you would like to share, either about yourself, Clockwork Punk Studios, which we didn't even mention? I'm sorry we were missed to say that. It's one of your companies, or any exclusive news from other companies. I don't know. Hint, hint. Maybe something from Monte Cook Games with our Cypher Limited community.
Let me pull up my notes and make sure I don't say anything I'm not supposed to say.
Don't worry about it. We won't tell anyone if you say anything that you're not supposed to say.
I would hate to undermine the hard work of our marketing team, of which I am a small part. I can tell you that we are nearly complete with a revamping of the asset team site. If you're not familiar with the asset team, that's what we use to provide rewards and support to our most devoted game masters and things like that. Working with Kate and Charles and Tammy and everybody, I'm working on making that site work a lot better. One of the things that you'll be able to do, for instance, is in the past, when you wanted to turn shins into a store coupon, you had to request it and then wait for someone to do it. You won't have to do that now. You'll be able to actually cash out your shins to the store anytime you want. It'll just happen automatically.
That's awesome.
And so that should save everybody a bunch of time, because that's a thing that Kate has to do, and people prior to Kate in that role had to do. So that's a big thing that we're improving, and we've expanded the ability to, give extra rewards. If there's a particular event we really want to push, we can increase the shins we reward for a thing and stuff like that. So there's some cool stuff in there that'll be coming very, very soon. Also, it's going to have the ability for retailers to geographically search our asset team and contact asset team members if they are trying to get an event up off the ground and want to get somebody. So that's to come. And I can tell you, this is a tough one because I'd love to talk about it, but all I can say is there's something really big in the digital space coming from MCG soon, and that's all I can say. I can't tell you anything more about it, but we're working on something really cool, and hopefully sometime very soon, perhaps in the next month and a half or so, you'll hear about it. And I think I'm allowed to tell you that our next Kickstarter is coming very soon. I can't tell you what it's for, but if you watch the various MCG social media streams and stuff, I think you're going to start to pick up on some hints. So pay attention. That's coming very soon as well.
Oh, I'm super excited for all of
I'm very excited about this this next crowdfunder, not Kickstarter, but because we use BackerKit. But yeah, I'm excited about this one. So Jean, I can't say anything more. I almost spilled the beans there. Sorry.
Do you want to be the first or the last to spill the beans, Jeremy, on this show? We have those faces where the MCG staff come on and they just want to tell us the deep and darkest secrets. We know how it is. That's something to do with Al's glasses, I think.
Yeah, they have a similar properly to the what is it, Wonder Woman's lasso? It's very similar. If you look too closely at them, it happens. So be careful.
But joking aside, I think the revamping of the asset team thing is much needed, and it's going to be. I know on our server that we have a channel for the asset team, and there's always a ton of questions. There's always one thing for more support, and to see that you guys are actually listening and responding is freaking awesome. And I'm sure that's going to be really exciting once it's announced. You know how far off that's going to be? Is that a couple of months away, or is it sooner than that?
Oh, it's much closer than a couple of months. Very, very close.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. I would expect to see many of those changes accessible to the asset team members before the end of the month. I think I can comfortably say, and possibly closer to now than the end of the month. That's probably all I should say. Because if I promise a date or something like that, I'll inevitably find a giant bug, and then I'll be working 24/7 to try to fix it to make some sort of date. So, but one thing I wanted to say, it doesn't surprise me that people like talking to you guys because of all the many places I've worked over the years, I think the MCG team loves what they do more than many of the places I worked over the years. I don't want to say that other role playing game companies workers don't love what they do, but there's a special group of people. I really think I love to hang out with them and work with them, and yeah, like it really, it's they're different enough. I think that even I think their fans notice it that they're a different group of
Oh,
people.
they absolutely, they're just the most beautiful people, not only to support, but to talk to. They're so friendly with their fans. They're so approachable. I mean, we could spend a whole hour episode talking about how great everyone at MCG is. I've never had a bad experience with anyone in that company, and not only has I've never had a bad experience, they've gone above and beyond to help us out in any way they could possibly. We owe them, we wouldn't have a CU without the help we received from Tammy, from Charles, from Darcy when she was the community, and now Kate, Latia. Everyone has just been super phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah, and those people are like family to each other still. I mean, every convention I've been to, we've hung out with Darcy and Latia, even though they no longer work for the company. They're still part of the MCG fam. So it's a great place. I really like the people, and I'm so glad I get to work with them. And they treat me like a human being, which I hate to say it, but like working in tech, sometimes it's easy for people to forget there's another person on the other side of the screen. Most of my interactions with my clients are through email and things like that. So they never forget that I'm a person, and that sometimes I have stressful days, and they're great. Love them. So yeah, can't say
I
enough
mean,
good things about them.
I'll ask a quick question. You are a freelancer. If someone wanted to hire you, what would be the best way to contact you? Is it through Clockpunk Studios, or is there an easier way to do it?
Yeah, Clockwork Studios would be the way to reach out. There's a contact form on that website that will gather information and put you in touch with me. I will say that my workload these days is significant enough that you know we're very we unfortunately have to be a little bit selective about what we take on because between Kobold Press and MCG and Evil Hat and Sifwa, my time is pretty well accounted for. I'm pretty busy. If you talked to me 5 years ago, I would have been desperate for new clients. But my business at this point has gotten to the point where just supporting my existing clients chews up about 80-85% of my time. But we still do take on new work. So it's a good place to be, let me tell you. I'm I feel very, I mean, it's a cheesy word, but I feel very blessed to be in the situation that I'm in, to get to work with the people that I get to work with. So.
Hashtag
Come on,
blessed.
Jeremy. It's a leap year this year. You got February 29th. There's a whole 24 hours you could get some work done.
I know, right? I expect I will definitely be working on February 29th. February is too short. I hate these 28-day months. They're too short. Give me 31. I can get more done. So
Before we move on to our rapid fire questions, we have some questions from the audience. We have a few here. So I'll ask the first question that you follow up, Al. Brilliant Loser asks, what languages do you mainly use for the Darkest House app development? Did you mainly use for the Darkest House app development?
So the Darkest House is powered by WordPress, like most of my stuff, which is built on PHP and MySQL, or MySQL, however you prefer to say it. It's also got a hefty amount of JavaScript, probably a little bit of like pure JavaScript and some jQuery. I'm old, so I still use jQuery because it's what I know really well. So when I have a rapid turnaround for a project, I still use jQuery, especially for DOM level, like manipulating content and things like that. But it's got some other libraries too. It's got some crazy JavaScript libraries that I can't remember off the top of my head to do some of the page animations and things. But that's what it runs in, and it's built such that I can very easily convert it to just static HTML. If we ever decide that it's not going to receive any more content changes, and that way we can push out another version of the app where it's just static content and it's not a live service. So don't worry, we'll never abandon the darkest house in the way that you won't be able to access it. We'll just do an update to it if we ever decide it's not going to connect to a live website. It was a big decision in the team to decide whether it would just be content that we shipped out as an app, or whether we would connect to a web-based source to get the content. And we ultimately decided for that because it allowed us to live update it more easily without you having to download a new version every time we tweaked the text or added a new image and things like that. So that's why it exists that way. And there are pluses and minuses in both cases. I'm sure people will either agree with or disagree with that decision, but that's why it is that way. But I like to mention that we always know these days when I build something, I always think about not how it just needs to be used today, but how it's going to be used in 5 years, 10 years, because I've been around long enough that I've lived to see my work last 5 or 10 years and know that I could have done, better in those early stages. So
that's awesome.
It's definitely a cool aspect, thinking long term.
Try to.
But next question, audience question here is from our good buddy, Old Gus. They go by +9TVB on Twitch. Their question is...
Gus's work.
Wait, what happened?
I said I'm a fan of Old Gus's work. I'm familiar with their Cypher system reference document implementation that they built.
Just talked to them last week about it. It's awesome talking. But yeah, everyone, and their question is, everyone has that dream project at work that is still on the horizon or maybe has just passed by. What's yours?
Oh gosh, dream project. That's a hard one because if you had asked me 5 or 6 years ago, what I'm doing now would have been my dream projects, like getting to work with the clients that I get to work with. At MCG, we're constantly pushing the envelope with great new games, and I work with Cobalt Press, and they're launching, Tales of the Valiant, which is their own sort of take on 5th edition without utilizing, Wizards of the Coast properties, which a lot of people have some issues with them these days. And so that's kind of a dream come true. I think, in the web space, I want to keep pushing into developing more and more tools to facilitate the process of running games. The form factor of a book is great, but sometimes there are tools, random tables, things like that, which can be really useful to accelerate the process of playing a game or preparing for a game. So I would like to continue to do that sort of thing in all sorts of areas, just better tools, more tools. I want to be able to save time for everybody, not just my clients, but also my clients' customers. So that's an area that I'd like to grow more into in the future, for sure.
Somebody you may know named Tammy Ryan asks, what's your favorite wild animal you've seen in its natural habitat?
Tammy knows that I studied biology and I did some world travel. I spent some time in Kenya and East Africa, and I spent 2 weeks on the Amazon on a riverboat. Oh gosh, my favorite animal that I've seen in the wild. It's really tough. I like all animals equally. This is one weird thing about me is I lack any sort of fear response to anything alive. So spiders, snakes, bugs, I'm not afraid of anything inherently. Like I know when an animal's poisonous to be, to take caution, but I don't have a fear response to things. I don't have any phobias. I mean, the time I got to spend hanging out and petting a cheetah is pretty hard to beat. I don't know if you do. So 2 things I'll tell you about cheetahs. One is they purr like cats do, but they sound like a motorcycle idling when they purr. It's just absolutely like you feel it in your bones. The second is that their claws are not retractable like other cats. They're permanently out there. They like if you hid the head of a cheetah and looked at its body, you could potentially think that it was a dog. They're built more like a dog for that, like a greyhound almost. Their claws are used for traction, for speed. They actually bite the neck to kill. They don't use their claws very much for like they're probably the most docile of the big cats, and they're really fun. The game I studied wildlife management on a game ranch in Kenya, and they had a semi-domesticated cheetah that hung around, and I got my picture taken petting it and hanging out with it. But it walked into the room while we were hearing a lecture, and I thought somebody had ridden up on a motorcycle. That's definitely in my top 5 for sure. So
I was about to ask a dumb question, but you answered it for me. I was like, how'd you get close enough to a cheetah embedded?
it was semi-domesticated. Yeah, yeah. It had been raised as a cub, and it was wild. Like it hunted for itself and stuff, but it wasn't afraid of people.
That's all.
That's
Remind me to
amazing.
tell you sometime about Skippy the inbred oryx. I'll tell you that story offline. I've got a lot of fun stories in Kenya. So
I mean,
not mine.
now's the point of the show where we do our world famous rapid fire questions. This is the part, Jeremy, where we dig deep into your soul, right? We pull out your essence and we stretch it on the table for the whole world to see. Are you ready for these world famous Cypher Unlimited rapid fire questions? Drum roll.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna get some as ready as I'm ever gonna be.
Question 1: player or GM?
Forever GM.
Pull
Forever.
punches or TPK?
TPK. You can always come back from a TPK. Pulling punches, that's not touching the wall. Touch the wall, man.
Yeah. That's non-pet and cheetah. Online or in-person gaming?
Online. And I have to say online because adults have very busy lives and I have a lot of friends all around the world. When I restricted myself to just trying to play in person, I could only draw from the local population of people and it was much harder to schedule things. When I switched to online, I could draw on everybody I know and I could set a time and then I could get 5 times as many people. I have a waiting list as long as my arm of people who want to play in my games because I run them online and anybody can play who has an internet connection, and that makes a big difference.
I'm sad to say that all my in-person GMing is at cons now, which
Same. Yeah.
kind of really sad.
It's just the nature of the world, and that's okay.
That's
I still
exactly what I was
enjoy
going
it
to
quite
say.
a bit.
But yeah, announce the difficulty number or keep it a secret.
I'm a new convert to keeping it secret, especially for Numenera, because with early players, doing that math back and forth where you're constantly converting it to a dice number target can really get people lost in the numbers. It's one of the common complaints I've run into. So I just like to tell them, roll and tell me if you're going to spend effort and if you've got a skill. And then, as they get close to the number, I'll give them hints. But it's the same in role playing games. I don't like like in D&D, I don't like to tell them the armor class until they just hit on it or something and say, "Oh, you just barely hit it," and then they know. It's just more fun that way.
Salty or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
That's like a false dichotomy. I want salty and sweet. I want both at the same time. Give me trail mix, man. Peanut M&Ms, raisins, all that. I'll take it all. I mean, look at me. Do I look like a person who turns down snacks? No.
Oh boy. RP or combat?
RP. I mean, it's all the same, right? It all boils down to conflict. Role-playing games emphasize combat because they have their roots set in war games, which were entirely a combat conflict-based systems. But as I've advanced as a dungeon master, game master, I've learned to think of every encounter, every scenario, every situation as a different opportunity to resolve conflict. Combat's just one of the ways, and some systems are designed to really emphasize that and provide you with a lot of tools. But I think once you start to see everything in terms of conflict and resolving conflict and challenging the characters, it becomes easier to just do it all. And so, I lean more on the RP side just because I try to take that elevated view of conflict. And RP, you can RP in combat just for combat's sake. I mean, I'll play a war game any day.
The next one is PDFs or physical books?
Oh God, I have to say PDF just because what I am, man. I'm a digital guy, but if I want to just read for pleasure, I need the physical book in my hand. And also, there's one thing I've never been able to learn how to do, and maybe your viewers can give me tips. Like I can flip through a book and find what I'm looking for way faster than I can a PDF. Even using Control F and searching for the text. Like if you remember what the page looks like but not where, it's so much faster. Like to rifle the pages, and I don't have the equivalent of like rifling the pages in PDF. I run a 3-monitor setup, and one is dedicated for whatever books I need to refer to while I'm running. And I don't tend to use books while I'm playing because it just takes up too much space, you know. But so if I need quick reference, I think the books are great, but PDFs are just so much easier. You know, I can cut and paste the text from them. Illustrations, I have Acrobat, so I can actually save illustrations out of them sometimes if they're set up for it to drop into my virtual tabletops, and that it just makes my life a lot easier.
Jesus said, I don't know if jokingly or not, but just memorize the page numbers.
Yeah. Some of my players have that kind of memory. I unfortunately am lucky to remember my own name when I wake up in the morning. So
big same here.
Yeah.
But next one here.
The chat also said that you look good frozen, and that if it was, I know Tammy and DM Tails both said the same thing, that if it was them, they would have been saliva dripping coming out of the side of their mouth. So kudos for that.
And next one here. Pen and paper notes or digital?
Digital. I'm left-handed and never really properly learned to write very well. My handwriting, I remember, I'll never forget my fifth grade teacher telling me that only myself and several renowned Egyptologists could read my handwriting. And so I can't really even read my handwriting very well. So as soon as I was able to learn how to type and start taking notes digitally, I switched because you can read those and I can read those. But I keep a notepad next to my desk and I just make scratches on it. It's for tallies and things. I can't read it.
I'm just laughing before we move on to the next one. That you said your fifth grade teacher was savage enough to tell you that.
No,
Tell it to a
I've
fifth
never
grader.
forgotten it. I've never forgotten it. I mean, I laughed in the moment because she was
That's
right. I
hilarious,
mean,
but damn.
she was right. What a joke! Yeah, quite a burn.
Ooh.
Pre-written adventures or original content?
You know, I go with original content because I like to write. So I like to, for years and years and years, I was all about like running my own campaign settings and whatever. I very rarely used pre-written adventures. But since I've started running so many games, I have really learned to appreciate pre-written material because, again, I don't want to spend 4 hours prepping for a weekly session. I'd rather spend 4 hours playing another game. And so I really like games that lean into by the seat of your pants. Like one of my favorites recently is this game called Brindlewood Bay, which is this phenomenal, fun little mystery game where you play little ladies like solving murder mysteries, but also there's a cult trying to raise a Cthulhu-like entity that slowly you become aware of as you play the game, solving mysteries in this little seaside town. But it has this method of doing mystery games, which is just genius that I absolutely adore, which is it gives you a list of clues and it gives you suspects, but it does not give you a pre-written solution to the mystery. The way the players play the game is they collect clues by doing things through the mystery, so it's improvisational, but you have a pre-written list of clues that are very generic, and you have suspects, and the players collect clues, and then in order to solve the mystery, they have to do a theory together. They have to basically sketch out how all the clues are connected to point at one of the suspects, and then they make a die roll based on how many clues they had. And if they get it right, if they make success on the roll, that is the solution to the mystery. If they fail, then I have to come up with a solution how they're wrong, and then bad things can happen. So it's like the perfect solution because I get to have the fun of doing a little like Agatha Christie Murder She Wrote little murder mystery, but I don't have to know how to solve the mystery ahead of time. The players figure it out, and they always come up with something better than you anyway. So it leans into it. It's genius. I love that mechanism, and it's just like the perfect style of play for me. Yeah,
I need to check that out. That sounds cool.
I just finished a campaign of that. We played about 10 sessions of it, and it's also built for short campaigns, which I really like.
That is awesome. You pseudo survived the rapid fire questions, Jeremy.
He had to use a continue or an extra life, but he made it.
Yeah, the game was 2 XP to play and choosing himself back into the game.
Punched in my Konami code at the start.
But yeah.
Go ahead, Al.
No, I was just going to thank everyone for coming and, pass it on to you for the little end spiel. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for stopping by. This was an amazing talk.
Thank you.
Anthony, what were you going to say?
Jeremy was kind of to give us some exciting news, and we also have a couple of exciting news, MCG related information that we could share. First off, I don't think it's any surprise that me and Al both have on CypherCon shirts because we met with Kate, and I think we're getting very close to finalizing on a date for the new CypherCon, and it's going to be bigger and better and more exciting. I think I could get away with saying this. We're looking around the month of September. It's going to give us a nice lead-in to have everything set and ready to go. The rest of the details I can't really talk about, but trust me, CypherCon is going to be freaking awesome, so keep your eyes out for that. And more importantly, right after this stream, Monte Cook Games are having a meme competition that's going to run about 5 weeks, and it's going to be hosted on the Cypher Unlimited Discord. So please, 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 we want to see post the most fantastic memes you possibly can. Right after this live stream, head on over to the Cypher Unlimited Discord. We're going to give you all the full details, but the basic gist is every week MCG is going to provide you with a theme, right? And you have a whole week to come up with as much, or I mean, as many creative memes as you possibly can based on the theme that they're giving you. And this week's theme is ease of play. So all your memes have to be ease of play based. You post it in the Cypher Unlimited Discord. We're going to create a special room for everyone that posts their memes. And the NCG team themselves are going to go to this and check them out, pick out their favorites. You can also post it on other social media platforms, and depending on the amount of media availability that you get through there, MCG is going to decide a winner at the end of the 5 weeks for each week. And get this, guys, the winner gets your choice of a revised Cypher System core book or a $100 coupon. So that's to the MCG store. So that's 5 people getting at least a $100 coupon to the MCG store. So it's going to be freaking awesome.
Oh, just one minor correction. You just said the Cypher Revised core book. It's the Cypher Revised Deluxe Edition.
Yes. That's freaking even better. I would actually take the deluxe book over the $100 coupon if it was me. But to each his own. I'm a deluxe freak. To each his own. If you want the coupon, you can get it, or you can get the deluxe book. Either way, come on, guys, head on over to the CU Discord and post your memes. The channel's going to be up right after this video go live immediately. And it runs all the way to March 22nd. It's 5 weeks, a different theme every week. And this week's theme is ease of play. Right? Let me just make sure I got everything covered here. You can like, share, and repost. Depending on how much likes, shares, and reposts you get on several different social media platforms, it affects the MCG judging. So, not only do you want to push your meme, you should also like and repost your friends' memes as well. Because the ultimate goal is we all love the Cypher System, guys, right? Let's show everyone else how awesome the Cypher System is. And this is a way we can do that. And, in this day and age, memes are a way to capture new attention, to capture a new audience. So, let's make this happen and go to CU Discord. I'm excited for this. I hope you are too. Al, you gonna post a meme? Are we posting any memes?
I already have an idea for one. I just got to find the right image. I will say this, though, just as a quick piggyback. We are doing the competition again on the Cypher Unlimited Discord. It will be a forum situation, a gallery forum. So your images will just be there, for everyone to see and to comment on and whatnot have you. And I believe the process will be that the memes will then be posted by Monte Cook Games. And then, as Anthony said, those with the most likes, shares, whatever have yous, that will go into the judging process. Just to TLDR everything Anthony just said. And I'm very much looking forward to everyone's funny memes, and I already have a couple rattling around in my mind, and I will be getting to that.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this, guys. I hope you are too. If you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monte Cook Games. We are the largest fan one Discord server for anything MCG. But if Discord is not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's still great conversations being had there daily. If you want to support us in any way, give us a subscription here on Twitch or go to our YouTube channel and like, share, and subscribe there. We still try to build both platforms up, and any help we can get will be greatly appreciated. Our videos are always free, but if you want to help us out financially in any way, you can give us a little donation on Ko-fi or go to our online store and pick up this cool Cypher Unlimited merch like the hat I got on. Unfortunately, I don't think these CypherCon shirts are still available, but the new ones will be up shortly. So, you can pick up the new one, but these are vintage now. We got vintage shirts on now. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Vintage shirts. I still have my shirt with the old logo on it, with the circle. But either way, thank you everyone so much for stopping by. Thank you, Jeremy, for coming by talking about what you do. Like Anthony said, we're trying to shine a light on all of the designer artist type roles that exist within the TTRPG space, just to show everyone that just because you're not a designer or artist or whatever have you, there is still room for you within this space. So if it really is your passion, go for it.
I forgot one little thing. We still working on the 12-man Cypher Unlimited troop for the actual play project. Anybody knows me, I work in facilities management, and we had a big snowstorm in New York City, so it kind of slowed down my interview. So if I haven't contacted you, I still will. I'm about 170 more to go on these interviews, and I'm probably, after this, I'm going to probably try to contact 2 or 3 people before I go and go back to reading Rusted Redemption. And pick up Rusted Redemption because it's freaking awesome. Bye.
Second, and yeah, as usual, from us at the CU, we will see you later.